Okay, 3, 2, 1, going live. I'll give that a few seconds, actually do its thing.
Yeah, give it the few seconds that we never need to do because we're definitely live already as soon as you click the button that says we're live.
You know what?
There's a lag on that, as there always is. Anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome
to the Jumanji Circle Cast.
Or the Outsider Circle Jumanji Cast.
Yes.
Whatever suits your fancy.
Yeah. I'm Jumanji.
And I'm also Jumanji.
And we're here to discuss Jumanjis.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many people are aware, but there are multiple Jumanjis.
Yes.
There's actually kind of a Jumanji canon that we've sort of discovered in our research for this particular podcast.
But that is actually very interesting knowledge that we did not know about.
Yeah, but also we decided for this this particular episode we were going to go with we're going to go with a little bit more of a niche topic, something that we can really get down to the nitty gritty of.
Yes, something just have a little bit of fun with.
Yeah, because honestly, we had in our adaptation episode we talked a little bit about
Brian is saying
things
something
that are lost in translation. Things that are he's with us in spirit. Good to know. Yeah, sorry, unfortunately we don't have Brian on the keys today, so it's just gonna be Jumanji and Jumanji today. We don't have a third Jumanji.
No, we don't. We are solo Jumanjis.
Yeah,
or duo Jumanji.
Duo Jumanji. But so when we in our adaptation episode we talked a little bit about what gets lost in translation when you do adapt something. We found out that Jumanji is in fact an adaptation of a children's picture book. But more than that, we also touched on a little bit about, what gets lost in sequels and how we kind of live in a sequel culture now. And
yeah, definitely.
Earlier this year, they confirmed that there would be a sequel to Jumanji Enter the Jungle, which was a reboot of the Jumanji franchise.
Yeah.
2017, starring Kevin Hart, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Karen Gillan, and
Jack Black, who really goes to steal the whole show.
Star of the show.
And the reason we kind of just like picked Jumanji out of I don't know really
out of a hat, I guess.
And
also Robin Williams movies.
Yeah, and mainly because I had seen at least part of the recent Jumanji movie shortly after it came out,
right?
And it was good.
Yeah,
Jumanji 2 Enter the Jumanji, very good.
And so I'm kind of cynical and apprehensive about my movie going experiences these days, so I didn't check out the new Jumanji. I thought it was going to be a cash grab. They had all these big stars in it. They had Nick Jonas in it, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
And then, surprisingly, very entertained by Jumanji Enter the Jumanji.
Extremely
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's a couple Jumanjis down the line.
Yeah. So let's start off with the original Jumanji.
Yeah.
Which is the book written by what's his name?
Chris Alsman, I believe his name was. It's escaped me. We had our research far away, and we don't have a keyboardsman today.
We have a keyboard, but we gotta do all our own work today.
Yeah, exactly. We have to do all of our own work. We have to be our own producers and hosts today. Which is what we did in the beginning. So I guess we're just going back to our roots. But so this guy, regardless, the guy who wrote and drew the picture book for Jumanji, a 1981 picture book, his name I think is Chris Van Allsburg.
Yes.
You might recognize that name as not only the author of Jumanji and the Zathura, the follow-up to Jumanji, but he's also the guy who did The Polar Express.
Yes, which also has an adaptation movie, which also leans
pretty heavily on CG.
Yes, very heavily. It is entirely CG, actually, and it's a little horrifying.
A little uncanny valley. People are uncomfortable with that film.
In one of my previous works of podcasting, of me and my older host Ruman, I don't know if you remember Ruman.
I remember Ruman.
He had chosen The Polar Express for us to watch, and it was weird.
It's a weird movie.
Very weird. I would not recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend it for children because it straddles that uncanny valley line where it's I know these are not people, but they want me to think that they're people.
Also, everybody's played by Tom Hanks. Everybody. Santa's Tom Hanks. The little kid. The narrator of the movie is Tom Hanks, who is the little kid. Right. His dad is Tom Hanks.
Yeah, the conductor of the train is Tom Hanks.
There's a weird Christmas bum. He's Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I already said Santa Claus is Tom Hanks.
You did? You let in with that?
A lot of people are Tom
The
Hanks.
locomotive engine is also Tom Hanks.
Yeah, all those sound effects is just Tom Hanks, and the recorders just go.
Yeah,
He made all those.
you know, he really earned his accolades as an actor for that role.
Yeah,
for those roles, you should say.
Very versatile actor.
Yeah, and he did all of that as a computer animation too.
Yeah.
He also did all the computer animation. He learned software engineering. For this.
Really, the Polar Express was a passion project to Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it should be
really
called the Tom Hanks Express. Really, honestly.
But yeah, so Jumanji was written by the same man who wrote the Polar Express, and then also there's apparently a greater canon to the Jumanji literary universe of Zathura, which you were telling me that you had seen, which is also got adapted to a movie.
So people might have forgotten this one because let's just a little bit of context, I think, first, just so we can build it all chronologically. Jumanji, the original children's picture book, came out in 1981. It was later adapted into a fairly successful movie starring Robin Williams and
successful
some other
for its time. It was a runaway success.
100%. Yeah.
I believe we were looking this up earlier.
Something like 20 million brought in like.
It was. I believe the budget was 64 million, and it brought back 238 million.
Yeah.
Which, for those who don't know, general rule of thumb for a film is to be successful is to make double its production budget.
Yeah.
And 240 million is definitely more than double of 60 million.
Yeah. So they did well. It hasn't really withstood the test of time.
Yeah.
It's not very well favored on places like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes. But it is certainly one of those movies that stuck in the zeitgeist. Jumanji is instantly recognizable to Western audiences.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting just kind of concept in itself. Like a strange magical board game that kind of forces a wild world upon you as a player, and then you're forced to live in it until you get to the end.
And it's interesting though. So the book was written in 1981. It wasn't produced until 95 as a film. But I think that the movie, whoever found this children's book and decided to make it into a movie, I think that they were really trying to double down on like the cultural popularity that Ouija boards were having in the 90s. I'm not sure if you know anything about this or remember any of it.
I never was into Ouija board. I've never been into the supernatural too much, but
same as that. But on a cultural level, America seemed to be kind of obsessed with Ouija boards in the 90s. For whatever reason. So I think that the idea of like this spooky, haunted-ish board game was something that they were kind of tapping into the zeitgeist with. Also Robin Williams, of course.
Yeah, Robin Williams is really big in the 90s.
Kirsten Dunst is the young girl in the movie, the young heroine.
And I was really surprised to see her. I didn't know how long her career had been.
She's been in movies for a long time. She was also in Interview with the Vampire with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. I
did not even know that. When did that movie come out?
I think also around 1995, somewhere around there.
Okay. Well,
she was very young.
Yeah.
But so it has a pretty good cast of characters, or a pretty good cast of actors, I should say.
Yeah.
Characters are a little flat, to be honest.
Which kind of we can get into. I don't know if you want to get to right now.
Well, but I guess just ground level. The picture book, the original children's picture book, very basic story. It's the story of these two kids whose parents go out for like a night on the town or whatever. Judy and Peter. Same names as the kids that are in the movie. But the book is pretty simple. Like, they play this game and then they have to deal with all the shenanigans of like animals and jungle shit that comes as a result of playing Jumanji. And also the game, like, none of this stuff will go away until you finish playing the game. Like, those are like the rules established.
Exactly, yeah.
The movie extrapolated on that plot and added characters. It added Robin Williams as a character with a little bit of backstory. And I guess it tried to flesh out a little bit more who these kids are, because instead of these kids just like being regular kids playing a game at home when their parents are out, they're orphans. They decided to orphan these children off screen in the beginning, after spending I would say a little bit too much time telling us who Alan Parrish is and why we should care about him. Yeah,
so I don't think any of the characters from the movie were in the book. Or the
two kids, the Kirsten Dunst and her brother.
Okay, but for the rest of the movie, everything is kind of just like made up by the filmmakers and the screenwriters.
Yeah.
And as we were watching Jumanji,
all five of them.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you noticed about change the light to green for Jumanji.
Oh, we got the Jumanji. We got the Jumanjis.
Yeah.
Oh, this is maximum Jumanji, guys.
We're gonna be saying Jumanji a lot.
Oh
because
my god, it's
mainly,
so fun to say.
It's such a great word.
Say
Jumanji.
It, say it. If you're sitting at home watching, just say it out loud to yourself. Jumanji.
Jumanji. It's
Jumanji.
But yeah, as we're saying, so we were watching Jumanji, and we were kind of surprised at how slow it was, really.
Yeah, real long time to actually start being Jumanji.
Yeah, because like Jumanji, like it has a relatively like kind of its own little place in American culture, or at least recent American culture, and we were just kind of surprised at how unimpressed we were with it at first.
Yeah. And I probably ultimately, like, I definitely remember liking this movie tremendously when I was younger. Enough that it left an impression on me. And I also got a little freaked out, I think, when I first watched it as a kid, because it can be a little scary.
Yeah, it definitely does get very scary.
It's violent, right? It's not like overtly violent, but it is.
There's a lot of
rampaging animals causing havoc in the city.
There's chaos. There's very specifically a quicksand scene, which if I was a child,
oh my god,
who was afraid of quicksand unreasonably, like most American children were, I would have been utterly horrified.
Yeah, because not to mention that, but it's immediately followed up by giant spiders.
Yeah.
So it's like they really try to hit every note in terms of how they can freak out kids.
And but on the note of the giant spiders, what I will say is that I do give them a lot of props for how well they try to do the special effects. So as we were watching, particularly
Did the candle go out? Or Jumanji went out?
Oh no. Here, get the lighter, fix it. But pull up the wick too. But so there's all these different types of animals and everything that happens in the movie, and one of the most jarring ones I would have to say is the monkeys. I don't know if everybody remembers the monkeys. Monkeys are typically chaotic and they run in a little bunch, but these monkeys looked gross.
These monkeys looked like the children from the Polar Express.
Yeah.
Except worse.
Yeah. And there were a couple of times where you got like a really not good look, but like just the monkey face just kind of stood still for a couple of frames and looked at you.
And you could see it. You could see the computer monkey face.
And it was gross. Yeah. But
really unsettling.
Besides that, they really tried practical effects for most everything else.
Yeah. It really meant a lot more. I mean, I think it added more to the scenes when it was a practical effect.
Yeah, like for example, the spiders you were just talking about.
Right.
When they had the spiders come out, like similar to the monkeys, it's kind of like a large swarm of creatures. It would be very easy to just like have a bunch of animated spiders there that come and crawl around, and then the actors got to deal with them.
Right.
But instead, they were these like plastic spider puppet things. And they were kind of just like jittering around the floor. And
I have to say, those are probably my least favorite practical effects.
I will say, yeah. But
like they were a little clumsy looking, like like the legs didn't move, so it was literally like just like
they were kind of just shifting around the ground.
Yeah.
But it was better. It's better to. I thought it was better to have something for the actors to actually like play against.
Yes, exactly.
Because particularly at this point of computer animation mixed with live action stuff back in the day, a lot of actors didn't really know how to approach like not dealing with an object that isn't there.
Right. Yeah.
So it gives a certain dissonance in the performance.
Yeah, you have to imagine these things. I don't think even at that point that they would have had tennis balls on sticks to represent where the digital assets are going to be. So yeah, I think that especially for kids too, like you're going to expect these kids to act with stuff. It has to be in the room with them.
Yes, exactly.
But in terms of the pacing of it, though, the pacing of the film, it starts off very slow because it establishes Robin Williams' character, or what will be Robin Williams, as a child. Actually, even before that, for like really no reason, it gives us this ancient backstory of Jumanji, the board game, being buried in this town, Baldwin, or something like that, Baldwin, back in like 1850 something. And it's like these two brothers, and you hear this like relentless drumming that comes from the game that apparently only children can hear.
Yeah, and that's very daunting. Actually, that was the one part of the Jumanji board game.
Completely unnecessary scene in the beginning to show us these two kids in 1856 burying it.
Yeah,
only for us to show Alan Parrish unearthing it.
Well, it has to like set it up. It felt very like 90s children.
We didn't need
movie.
to know who put it in the ground.
Yeah, but like enough. I don't know.
We didn't need it. On a screenwriting level, we didn't need that scene at all.
All right.
We could just have Alan unearthing this mysterious thing in the ground, because it's just as mysterious knowing it was in the ground than it is to unearth it. Because, like, we didn't know what they buried when they buried it.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter.
It was just daunting.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, so when they revealed the Jumanji thing, because the little kid, what was his name, Alan?
Alan.
Who I want to get to as a character in a second. But when he found it and then he opened the box that it was in, it was there was something particularly showmanship about the way the box was presented. So the box was initially underground.
It was in like a chest.
Yeah, it was in a chest underground, and he pulled it out because they were excavating something for houses. And then he opened it, and then in the box it was just like a bunch of sand and dirt. And then he lifted the box out and tilted it, and then all the sand just kind of fell off the thing, and just very beautifully just cascades off to this wonderfully designed little box of a game that they had.
Yeah.
And I will say, one of my favorite things about the Jumanji film had to have been the physical asset of that board game.
I 100% agree. I think that they developed such a unique silhouette for it. Like, you could recognize the Jumanji board game a mile away. Yeah. It is distinct. It is unique. It has a silhouette unto itself. Yeah. Very, very good.
And there was something very particular about the glass, like the middle glass that the Jumanji game had. Like when they go, and that's when it says the text. So it has like little computer graphics. It looked like that type of black volcanic glass, and it was like a dome, but it was an imperfect dome. Yeah, and that was something I very much appreciated, because I don't know if you've seen glass like that and you like held it and touched it, like. For me, at least, there's something about that particular glass that has like a certain aesthetic quality to it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I really enjoyed
pieces for that reason too.
Yeah, the pieces also
seem to be like carved out of like jade or an onyx and ivory. Like there are 4 different pieces, and they were all like different colors. One was like a dark green, one was dark brown, one was black, and one was white.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so I think it was like a carved wood, a carved ivory, and an onyx, and a jade. Yeah, and it looked old and rustic, and like it came from somewhere else, like foreign and like jungle. It was very, very, very cool in the design of the board game. They put a lot of work in that.
Yeah, and I think that was excellent, because they were dealing with this board game for so long. Like a lot of the time they're like holding the board game and running around,
physically just carrying it.
Yeah. Which was great. But then let's kind of get into let's talk about Alan. So Alan,
just before we get that, I just wanted to like finish the pacing point. It really takes about an hour and change to get to Jumanji. Yeah, it spends the first act entirely and like the beginning of the second act just establishing all of the players in the game of Jumanji. Yeah, and that's Kirsten Dunst, Judy, her younger brother Peter, who's like, I can't remember what his name is. The actor went on to do a lot of voice work. And then Robin Williams as a grown-up Alan Parrish, and his also grown-up friend that originally started playing the Jumanji game with them after he'd unearthed it. Yeah. But it spends all this time just to set up those characters before it really starts being Jumanji.
Yeah. And that was something that I was not pleased with, honestly. Like, it might just be like, more 2019 sensibilities, and like I really just want things to get going like immediately. Just like, tell me what I need to know and let's get moving.
There might be something to that.
Yeah, which is definitely a quality that the latest Jumanji film definitely has, and we'll get into that in much more detail later. But once it did like get to like once it that hour and change happened and reached maximum Jumanji, then it was very compelling. I was not bored anymore. Yeah. I was in my seat paying attention to the movie, because the movie made me pay attention to it. Yeah. Which is all I really want from a movie. I want a movie to make me give it my attention.
Especially like a fantasy action-y movie with this kind of premise. The jungle comes to a small town in Maine or whatever the fuck they are.
New England somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they kept referring it to as New England loosely. And I've never in my life heard people from like Massachusetts or from New Hampshire, whatever, refer to it as New England.
All that area.
Yeah, like if you're from Massachusetts, you're gonna call it Massachusetts. If you're from Rhode Island, you're gonna call it Rhode Island. It's not gonna be fucking New England.
Yeah, but but
they also probably filmed it in Canada.
Yeah, it looked. It might have been. I don't know. Never know.
You scroll down on that.
But either way. So let's get into Alan, who is the main character.
Alan Parrish. We see him first as a little boy back in the 1969. When, like as you said, he unearths.
No, it was 1959.
No, 69.
Was it 69?
Yeah, 69. Okay. I remember because every time they said it, I was like, 8.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So in 1969, he is a kid. He's about 10 years old, give or take, and he unearths the Jumanji and the Trest, like you just said, right outside his father's shoe factory. It also establishes very quickly that Alan is the victim of bullying. He is a little cowardly in that he like runs away from his bullies initially, but then he does kind of like smarten up and like decides to just stand up for himself. He gets his shit kicked in, but he stands up for himself.
His dad, well, because he runs away. So his father owns a shoe factory,
right?
And
also apparently the driving force of the economy of this small New England town.
Yeah, which was hilarious. I had noted that somewhere early in the film. It's just like everything's going to be this kid's fault. Yeah, and inevitably it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so his dad has the shoe factory, and they make really good shoes. Blah blah blah. Whatever. He runs in the shoe factory. He's just like, Dad, please help me. He's just like, No, go face your fears. Go.
He's like, I don't have time for this. I have shoes to make.
Yeah, and then he goes outside, gets his ass beat. But he gets his ass. He like gets jumped.
But before he gets his ass beat, though. He has this small moment where he talks to what seems to be the only black employee at the shoe factory.
I don't think he was the only one, but he was one of them.
He's the only one given a name.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I believe it's played by, is it David Alan Grier? Is that his name? Let me see.
We're on the Wikipedia for it.
Yeah. But basically the only black character with a name in the whole film. And since it's like the 60s, like
it is David Alan Grier, yeah.
Hey. But since it's the 60s and like the movie's trying to like be a little progressive or like retcon like history or some shit, and like David Alan Grier sees a kid, he's just like, hey kid, you're not supposed to be here, but before I kick you out of here, let me show you this cool shoe that I made. And it looked like
Jordan. It's a Jordan.
Yeah. And like,
but it's a Chamberlain, because it was for Will Chamberlain. It was 1969.
Yeah. And he was just like, if Will Chamberlain could wear these, like, we can get people wearing these all across the world, be the height of fashion.
Yeah.
And then the little kid gets talked to by his dad after holding the shoe,
and he puts it just on a conveyor belt
that's like meant to cut like a bunch of like leather,
yeah.
Just like cut strips of leather into different shoe parts, and then messes up the whole machine.
Yeah.
And then essentially gets the guy fired
and walks away without taking
any blame.
Like, he sees it happen, is aware that it is his fault, and just continues to leave the building.
Yeah.
And then Carl, David Alan Grier's character, says, "Yeah, sorry, sir, that was me. I did that."
Yeah.
And then is ultimately fired. We find that out another half an hour later in the movie.
Yeah.
But even though as soon as that happened, we're like, we're supposed to fucking care about this piece of shit?
Yeah. Because I was like, man, this kid just ruined things.
Yeah, he's a coward, and then he got somebody fired.
Yeah.
And now he got his shit kicked in by 4 other kids.
Yeah.
In front of his father's business.
Yeah, like there were people all around. Like,
yeah.
Like there were background extras no more than 100 feet away from this child getting his ass beat on the floor
and robbed. They took his bike.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, and so immediately after that happens is when Alan starts hearing the drum. So Jumanji attracts players.
Yeah, children. I think specifically.
Yeah. By this this intense drumming that you just hear.
Yeah,
you can't you have to look for it and locate it, but you just I guess you just hear and feel the drumming.
Yeah, and I really like that kind of concept of it, actually.
Same.
Because seeing is this kind of a cursed magical object of some sort, to have this thing that only children can hear calling out to them, and then they go seeking it because they hear the drumming, and it's very this menacing, just almost tribal drumming.
Yeah,
I guess.
I think that was the intention.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, it doesn't ever say this on the nose of it, but I wonder if it attracts particular kinds of kids. This was a kid who was a coward and getting beat up and not really great at standing up for himself. So maybe he did want to escape his reality and go to a Jumanji world. Because the whole shtick with Jumanji is when you open up the panel, it says on the front, it's for people who are looking to leave their world behind or something like that.
Is that what it said?
Something to that effect, yeah. But he finds the game and he brings it home anyway. Yeah.
So he brings it home. This little girl comes to return his bike.
Wait, before that, you're skipping, because I think this is all I thought was such weird pacings for this movie. Okay. Because this is all still happening. We haven't seen a lick of Jumanji yet.
No Jumanji.
We've seen the board game. We've heard the drums. That's all we know.
We're probably about 15 to 20 minutes into the movie at this point.
Yeah. He brings the game home, and he looks at it, and he opens it up, and he takes out 2 game pieces. Even though he's alone, takes out 2 game pieces, And then, like, his mother calls him, and he, like, accidentally drops the game pieces. And because it's Jumanji, it's cursed, they automatically set themselves into player position on the game board. But then he, like, closes the game and stuffs it under the couch because he has to go talk to his mom about stuff. And, basically they had this little plot where it's, like, him and his two parents, and the conversation is, we're sending you to boarding school.
Yeah.
And not only that, we're sending you to a boarding school and you're going to be living in a dormitory named after our family. You're going to be living in the parish dorms. And then the kid's like, oh, kids pick on me here for being a parish. I can't wait till I live in a building named after me. Yeah. And then, like, that's the whole point of contention with this kid and his parents is, like, I'm already being bullied because we're rich and affluent. I don't want to go to a place where my rich affluence is on display. And then the father's like, I was educated there. My father was educated there. This is a tradition, da da da. And then the kid's like, I hate you, mom and dad. I'm never talking to you again. Yeah. And then his parents leave. Yeah. That's like the emotional hang up that Alan is going to have for the rest of the movie. Yeah. Is that this is how he spoke to his parents before
essentially disappearing.
Yeah, because his friend, apparently his only friend in the world, the only person who's ever shown him any kindness, this little girl named Sarah. She comes over to return his bike to him. Yeah. And if you want, you can take that from there.
So she comes over to return his bike. He's all bloodied and bruised and beat up in the face. Yeah. And he's just like, thank you.
He has a fucking fat lip, too. Yeah. Split lip.
Really? It's very gross. Yeah. So he invites her and she's like, hey, I got this game. Want to play this game real quick? And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? So they go and they play literally two roles.
Because initially she was like, She was like, I stopped playing board games 5 years ago because she's 10. So obviously you can't play board games after you're 5 or something. I don't know. Yeah. But then he like,
how does he convince her? I forget how.
Because I think that like he rolls something and something happens and then it's like her piece is already there.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's what happened. Eventually they get to playing it. He does a roll. Some weird kind of stuff happens with the bats, and then. He rolls. No, she rolls first, and then the bats happen, and then he rolls, and then he gets stuck inside the game because you get stuck inside the jungle until you roll a 5 or 8. Yeah, and then because the bats are still happening, the little girl freaks the fuck out.
In the jungle, you must wait until someone rolls a 5 or 8.
Yeah, there's a lot of rhyming. I don't remember all of them.
But that's also it's like why that? Why on the second roll of the game does someone get sucked into the netherworld?
You know what? I don't know.
That seems kind of fucked up.
It really is. But all right, so she runs out of there, and then
being chased by bats.
Yeah, being chased by bats. He's stuck in the game now.
African bats at that, because they make sure to point that out a little bit later.
Yeah, and then it kind of just cuts, and then just like, all right, into the future times, and then now we're getting introduced to a whole different set of characters, and we're essentially going to go through what is the same amount of time and effort for these new sets of characters to get introduced to us, the viewer, and to the game overall. Yeah. And that was like that
was another 25 minutes of introduction to Kirsten Dunst and her little brother and like their caretaker
aunt or something, I don't know. Yeah, but like she's buying their house and they're like little kind of like shit kids and she lies all the time for her own amusement, and the brother doesn't talk and their parents are dead and like. But this takes a lot more time to develop in the movie. But then once that happens, it's like, all right, cool. Now we're introduced to these characters. They also find the Jumanji, and then they start playing it.
Right, but the one thing I do like, just in terms of how they, I think it's such a waste of time to like make us care about Alan as a child. And okay, yeah, he got stuck into the game. We need to know that. I understand. But they spent 20 minutes doing that, and then another 20 minutes setting up the other kids. But the one cool thing I thought was that. As soon as Sarah runs screaming out of the house, being chased by bats, the door shuts, and it like the you can see the decay set in the house, and then boom, that cuts to 1995. Yeah. So, and it uses, and I think then the next shot is them the aunt opening the door. Yeah. To check out this new home that they just bought.
Yeah. But I will say, in the second introduction to these new family, what I will say is when they bought the house is like kind of falling apart, really derelict. Like before, it was like super duper
magnificent.
Yeah, magnificent mansion. Like it was beautiful. There was marble floor. It was great.
Stuff you only get with shoe money.
Yeah, real shoe money, not like that bullshit shoe money, not K-Swiss money. We're talking like Nike
money. Yeah.
But there's this one sequence, like it's a little montage. It's probably no more than 30 seconds, 45 seconds long.
Yeah.
But it goes from like the decaying place to it being fixed up and looking real nice.
At least the first floor.
Yeah, and it's just like a slow pan shot while that's happening, and I really appreciate it. I thought that was a very good little montage, like piece of cinematography. Like,
there was definitely some good movie making in Jumanji.
Yeah, so we get there. I forget how we get from there to them having the Jumanji, but eventually the Jumanji happens, and
where the fuck do they? So they hear the drums.
Yeah.
The aunt has to go do adult things in town, and she's like, "Will you guys be okay to get on the school bus? Have you done this before?" And they're like, "Yeah, our parents used to put us on the bus. No, don't worry about it." Mm-hmm. And then she leaves them there for them to put themselves on the bus.
Yeah.
As they're like walking out, they like hear the drums again, and they like both recognize that they can both hear the drums. So they're like, "Oh, we gotta go figure out what the fuck that is." So they run up to the attic.
It was in the attic.
They discovered Jumanji in the attic.
Yeah, and then they start playing Jumanji, and so I think the only plot point that I had issue with was when they started playing Jumanji. The other two pieces were still on the board. They play their two pieces, and then they play 4 turns between them.
Yeah,
and which then gets to the issue because they play their 4 turns. So
I think they only played 2 turns.
Did they only play?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because it was the monkeys and then the vines.
Okay, I guess.
No,
I don't remember.
They might have played 3 turns.
I remember. Yeah, I remember one of them.
The fucking movie breaks its own rules. I think.
Yeah, because later once Robin Williams gets pulled out the map, they're like, all right, well now there's 4 players and we can't play the next turn until we find the 4th player. And Robin Williams is just like, well, it's that little girl from however long ago. But we also got to get into the Robin Williams coming out of the thing.
Right. So they start playing Jumanji. And like the first thing that happens, I think, is monkeys. Yeah, they accidentally summon monkeys, and the monkeys
just wreck shit.
Yeah, they just go
really bad.
They
CGI
go bananas.
Yeah.
And then it's either the next roll. I think this might have been how it went. I can't remember why. We just watched this yesterday. We should be better at this. That's how bad an impression the first movie made.
Yeah, I feel like I remember much more about the second Jumanji.
Absolutely, but. So whatever, the monkeys does happen, and then I think that the kids next to the boy kid, he rolls a 5, and that releases. So that he rolls a 5, and it does 2 things. It does the plants. It does like these like terrible vines start growing all throughout their house, and it releases Alan back from the game. Only surprise, surprise. He's 26 years older than he was when he went in. So I guess he would be about 36 if he was 10 when the movie started.
Yeah. And so Robin Williams comes out. He has a freak out. He goes out into the street. A cop comes.
Well, he's dressed in leaves and shit. He's got a big beard and long hair.
He has a turtle hat. Yeah. A turtle shell hat he's wearing, just going crazy.
Yeah.
He runs to the street. He runs into some issue with a cop. That cop happens to be David Alan Grier from before.
Yeah.
So once again, Alan comes to ruin his day.
Yep.
Which he does. And then they kind of convince him to keep playing, and then they find the other girl, and then Jumanji happens.
Right. And at this point, we're 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah. And
give or take 35 to 45,
and we're barely like at the time where they decide to play Jumanji.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time just fucking getting. First of all, they have to convince Alan to play because the game won't finish. None of this will go away until the game is done. And the kids are like, well, our house has been destroyed by monkeys and plants. We have to finish this game so that our aunt doesn't have a fucking heart attack.
Yeah, and the game says that everything will be reversed once the game is finished.
Yeah, so they convince Alan to continue playing, and reluctantly he's like, okay, fine, you're right, let's play. But in order for the next turn to be able to be taken, we need to go find Sarah, the little girl who started playing this game with me 26 years ago.
Yeah. So they find her. I really like her introduction. So when they find the girl, she has like a small panic attack real quick because she had been spending all of her life convincing herself that all of that things that happened to her when she was younger wasn't real. Yeah. She spent a lot of money on therapists and doctors and various medical treatments to make her be a stable human being and not freak out over this traumatic event from her past, just to have it all come back to her, be like, hey, remember all that shit that you thought wasn't real, you thought you were crazy, and that actually happened.
Yeah.
And then she quite appropriately has a freak out.
Yeah.
And it's great. There's the one part where she actually freaks out and he's just like, hey, I'm Alan, and then she just literally loses her shit and kind of flips over a table, then faints. Yeah. It's great. It's great. It's the exact response that you would want to have. It'd just be like, hey, all that stuff that he thought wasn't real, actually it was.
Yeah. Also, there's one thing I forgot to say that we should have touched on this briefly earlier. When they first went into the attic to find the Jumanji, the bats were still there. And they, like, scattered as soon as they got out. And the kids screamed, and the aunt checked it out. And then the aunt opened the door, heard and saw bats, and screamed herself. And then it's smash cut to the next day. There's a pest control guy showing up. And he goes up into the attic. He's like, no bats here, ma'am.
No guano.
He said there's no guano. And the kid opens up to like a fucking zoo books and it's like, hey, this is the bat that we saw. And he literally, I shit you not, the line is something along the lines of, oh, those are African bats. Those aren't in New England. You know, a little girl thought that she saw those too about 26 years ago. In this house, actually. And it's like, thanks, random pest control guy, for the exposition that we, the viewer, already saw. The kids don't need to know that some random bitch saw this shit 26 years ago. It was just like the weirdest little like, oh, remember the bats from 15 minutes ago?
Well, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Good thing we knew about those bats.
But, so when they find her, she faints. This is like the first real character-defining moment, I think, for Alan, where you start to see, like, oh, this man lived alone in the jungle for 26 years. Because this woman faints, freaks out and faints, and he just picks her up and carries her back to the house to continue playing Jumanji.
Like another just smash, cut, edit. Just like, oh, she fainted. All right. And then
she's on his shoulder.
And they're all walking with the games. Like, all right, let's go back to the house and play Jumanji.
Yeah. And then in the house, she's on the phone to her therapist being like, hey, remember that thing that never happened to me when I was a kid? Well, I'm sitting here with the kid it never happened to, and he's an older man now, and he's got a beard, and he abducted me. Can you please call the police?
Yeah, so this is when it gets into Jumanji time.
Yeah.
And I would say...
They trick her into playing the game again.
Yeah. And I would say the thing that probably irked me the most was the fact that they always had to go back to the house. So for multiple instances, because of the way of the plot worked, when the Jumanji happened, everybody was just like, oh my god, we gotta run away, and like everything's happening in the house, so they run out of the house to be safe, and then they're like a little bit away because of whatever reasons, and then just like, all right, now we gotta go back to the house. And like, why go back to the house?
Yeah, why can't you just play the game now outside?
Yeah. And like, as this is happening, bedlam is happening outside.
Yeah, because like I'm not sure what the sequence of events are, but
it was monkeys,
Jumanji
and
summons
then
bats, monkeys,
a stampede
of elephants and rhinoceroses.
Yeah. A pelican was in there as well. A pelican who stole the game for 2 minutes, which was stupid in my opinion.
Yeah, just another reason to get them out of the house. A monsoon.
Yeah, and then the huntsman.
And like a guy, a psychopath with a gun.
Like what is it? 1800s British African explorer type man.
Exactly.
With like a huge like the elephant gun you see in cartoons.
Jonathan Livingston, basically.
Yeah. And he's just now hunting them down. Or hunting Alan down, because
Alan was the one who rolled that particular thing.
So bedlam is happening outside, and
there's also deadly vines.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, before when they were recharacterizing the town in modern
mosquitoes! The fucking horrifying mosquitoes!
Oh yeah, they're huge mosquitoes.
Giant mosquitoes that were able to like smash through glass.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
But also the whole town is poor. Like they're
literally,
like all the businesses are out of business. There were literally people in the middle, like the town square park, with like a barrel and fire just standing next to it. Everybody was broke and poor looking, and it was really weird.
Biggest issue with like the middle of the movie, or like my biggest issue with this particular scene, it's like right after Jumanji has started being Jumanji, they're all 4 players are accounted for. They have to go into town to avoid some shit.
Yeah.
I think it's Alan avoiding the huntsman.
But we are getting far into the hour, so let's try to cut this
finish.
Jumanji.
We'll finish Jumanji one. We'll go from there.
Yeah.
But they just have this scene where we see a few homeless people gather around a garbage can fire in the middle of like what looks like a public square. They immediately go to the abandoned shoe warehouse, where apparently nobody lives except the most generous homeless person who has taken up residence in the dad's old office.
Yeah.
And he just gives Alan like clothes and food and like puffs on a cigar or something like that.
Yeah, he walks in and is just like, are you okay? Do you need a coffee? Yeah. No, Mr. Homeless Man living in this abandoned factory. Thank you, though, for your hospitality. I just wanted to inspect my father's old factory that you're now residing.
Exactly. All right, so yeah, we are about halfway through.
So either way, honestly, I don't think there's too much to say left. After this point, it was just...
After this point, like, we see more animal mischief. We see the tensions of, relationships being established with with Alan and the girl.
Yeah.
We see a horrifying quicksand scene where the floor turns into quicksand and he falls halfway through the floor.
Yeah, very scary. And then she tries to grab him, and then they both get stuck there when the quicksand finishes, because like all the Jumanji things happen for like 5 minutes, and then it's just like, all right, cool, it's done.
Yeah, then
no more
spider,
Jumanji.
then earthquake, then they win the game.
Yeah.
And when the game is won, both Sarah and Alan are transported back to 1969.
Yes.
They get to live their lives out again, now with all the knowledge of what's going to happen to the world, basically, or at least she does. And then as part of that, they decide to invite the kids' parents, the orphans, their parents before they become orphans.
Yeah.
They have them over for like a dinner party, and they're like, hey, we were actually thinking about going on a vacation to Canada to go skiing. And they're both immediately like, no, don't do that. So they like saved the kids from being orphans.
Yeah. And then that's it. Like, and then, but also, but interesting little thing, I guess, which is going to become a theme now. Jumanji's technically a Christmas movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the first Jumanji came out during Christmas.
Yep.
His latest Jumanji came out during Christmas,
and the next one is coming out during Christmas.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't say anything about Christmas on the front of it. But in the last shot of the movie, it is very clearly a Christmas party. It's very clearly Christmas. They are given presents. Jumanji's a Christmas movie.
Same thing in the second Jumanji. Just at the end, it's just like, all right, well, now they're walking in the street, all the houses have Christmas stuff on it. It's like, whoa, when did Christmas happen?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I cannot speak too strongly about the plot of Zathura. Willing to bet it's Christmas as well, though.
You know what? Yeah.
Because this guy, he also did a Christmas.
Yeah, he did the Polar Express.
He just loves Christmas. So then a brief segue then before we go into Jumanji Enter the Jungle, Jumanji Into the Jumanji. So we've actually found out that there is kind of an established canon to the Jumanji universe.
Yeah.
Because Zathura, I'm not sure if anyone has seen, I know Leo hasn't. Zathura is effectively Jumanji in space, where instead of Jumanji being like a jungle-y game, it's a space game, and like the kid's house gets like hurtled into outer space.
Yeah.
And instead of there being like an Alan Parrish, there's a Dax Shepard character who's like a space guy. It was an alright movie. It didn't fucking blow the gaskets off anything. It was
a horrible flop.
It was a massive flop. Yeah, nobody wanted to see it. Yeah. Dax Shepard just isn't like. I love Dax Shepard personally, but he just doesn't do good movies.
He's a bad actor.
Idiocracy was good. He's not a bad actor.
He's just got a new show on ABC. I forget what it's called. I saw a poster for it.
Like 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Don't
watch anything with Dax Shepard.
Don't watch anything on ABC.
Yeah, you're right. Some of them are right.
No, they're not. Anyway, so Zathura is actually, though it's canonically linked to Jumanji, the picture book, Jumanji and the picture book Zathura are linked in that at the end of Jumanji, the picture book, the two main characters, Judy and Peter, go toss the Jumanji board game out in a park somewhere, and they're like two neighbors, like William and Barry or whatever their fucking names are. They like pick up the Jumanji game, they bring it home for themselves, and then in Zathura, the two characters who get Zathura'd are the same characters that picked up Jumanji at the end of Jumanji. Yeah. So we're not going to go into that much, but it is fun to know that there is an established canon. And if we're really thinking about strict sequels, Zathura is a strict sequel to Jumanji.
Yeah.
It's Jumanji.
Zathura. I wouldn't be surprised if Jumanji 2 started off in like the same scene as where like Zathura started off at the end scene of Jumanji 1, because I think they do that in the new movie.
Now we can get into Jumanji 2, Enter the Jumanji.
Excellent.
It picks up literally on like the same shot that the first movie finished on.
Yeah.
So like the first movie finishes on like the kids throw the Jumanji into the river, into the ocean, something like that. And then the very last shot of the movie sees it half buried in some sand, and some people like walking towards it on the beach. Jumanji 2, Enter the Jumanji, picks up with it half buried in sand and somebody like unearthing it from the sand, and
with another less impressive sand reveal shot.
Yeah,
not as impressive as the first one. That was a very good sand reveal shot.
And then he brings it back to like his house, or like his friend brings it to him and he gives it to somebody. And like the kid who gets it, and it's in 1996, right? The first movie was in 1995, so this picks up in 96. Does the same kind of thing where it introduces us to the character who's going to be trapped in the Jumanji
But it's very quick. The second movie is lightning pace.
The second movie obviously knew what people's complaints were about the first movie.
Mm-hmm. And they fucking fixed it quick.
Yeah.
So the guy gets the book, gets the board game. He goes home. He's like a metalhead or whatever, and he looks at it for like 2 seconds and be like, man, this is kind of stupid. And he puts it away.
He literally says like, who plays board games anymore?
Yeah.
And then he goes and he plays whatever fucking
PlayStation
NES
thing.
equivalent.
No, it's a PlayStation. This is a Sony movie with a lot of PlayStation.
Sony product placement is insane for the first half an hour of this movie.
Like,
this kid's room, literally. Not this kid's room. The next kid's room. The actual modern day nerd.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so this kid says, who plays board games anymore? And then we learn what I think is probably one of the most interesting things about the Jumanji universe, the Jumanji canon.
Yeah.
Jumanji is sentient.
Yeah, Jumanji can shapeshift.
Yeah. He says, who fucking plays board games anymore? And he puts it down. And then the camera pans to Jumanji. And it's almost like you can see Jumanji being like,
what to do?
Guess it's time to evolve. And it like saw him play the video game. So it cuts and you see like this greenish light. And then the kid wakes up in the morning and he opens up the Jumanji. And instead of it being a board game, there's like a little like NES type cartridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
which he immediately plays.
Yeah, and then he just plays it, and then he gets sucked in the game, and then it's just like, all right, cool, cut there.
Yeah.
This part, probably no more than 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah. Very quick establishing shots.
So then we get to the next set of characters. This is where this is the real characters of the film.
Yeah.
Kind of breaks them in. You know, we got nerd Jumanji.
We've got boy nerd Jumanji.
Yeah.
Who is played by the son from Hereditary.
Yes,
You've seen that excellent movie.
Yeah.
Pretty good actor.
We got Black Boy Jumanji.
Black Jumanji, who's also, you could say, blindside Jumanji, because he is a football player.
Yeah, and nerd boy Jumanji is writing his papers for him.
Doing his homework. There's some implication that they used to be friends and are no longer.
Yeah, or they're like they're separating friends, or like
they're going their own ways.
Yeah. Then we got
hot Jumanji.
Yeah, hot girl Jumanji, who's using
popular girl Jumanji,
who's using her Sony phone all the time to take her Sony phone selfies
on her Sony selfie stick.
Yeah,
on her Sony couch.
And then we got the last one is girl Jumanji.
Girl nerd Jumanji. Yeah.
And she's just kind of like rebellious, like, I'm not like the rest of those girls type, and she's just like really upset.
It's basically like everything. Conventionally attractive girl Jumanji.
And then like
still attractive, but in a less conventional way, Jumanji.
Yeah, and then because of the plot, you know, the nerd Jumanji and Black Jumanji, they get caught plagiarizing together.
Yeah.
Girl new Jumanji is she's upset about Jim and like doesn't want to participate.
Doesn't do Jim because she's too smart apparently.
And I forgot what is hot girl Jumanji.
She's like video chatting with her friend in the middle of class.
Oh yeah.
And when the teacher's like, okay, no, she's like, hey, relax, it's only gonna be 2 more minutes and then it'll be done. So they all get detention together, and because it is a movie, it's Breakfast Club style detention.
They get tasked to do some manual labor.
To do labor on a Saturday, and it was like this like older, overbearing principal type that like sits them all down at first and like gives them a little lecture about the people that they want to be and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then in the middle of them cleaning up, they discover the Jumanji video game. How it wound up in the school, not really sure.
No, it's a back room that just has stuff in it.
Yeah.
And then like they see the game, and all of them are just like, you know what? Let's play this game instead of doing the work, because you know we're stupid kids that don't want to do the detention work.
And they waste no time. They know the audience. Like the audience is not here to see the establishment of these fucking characters.
Yeah.
We're here to see Jumanji.
Yeah.
And so they almost immediately drop the pretense of doing any detention related work, and also, so they like I think it's the Black Jumanji finds it first, and he like sets it up. Then male nerd Jumanji is like the second guy to pick up a controller.
Yeah.
Then hot girl Jumanji.
No, it's girl nerd because she. No.
Girl nerd is the last one to do it, because girl nerd is girl nerd, and she's like going to Harvard and stuff like that. She wants to be responsible. Like, no, guys, we should just do our detention stuff. And then they're all like, come on, son. Come on.
No, it was nerd boy Jumanji because they got a little smitten real quick.
And they dropped that real quick. Like there's some chemistry between the two nerds, and nerd boy is like, come on, it'll be fun. Let's have some fun. And then she's like, okay, well I guess. And then she picks up so when they go to do their character select, there's 5 characters to pick from. One of them is already locked out.
Ooh.
And then they all pick their characters,
and then they get sucked into Jumanji.
They all have different names, and they all have like descriptions underneath. The only one that really stuck out to me is the hot girl Jumanji picked Dr. Shelley Osborne, curvy genius.
Yeah. It was really. I thought that was really good, just kind of like a subversion type thing.
It was funny, but it's like no, there would be no way that character would be described that way.
Yeah, but so they all pick their characters, and then the Jumanji game starts like glowing green and like sparking, and we're just like, oh my god, what's happening? And then it's just like, hey, unplug the thing, and then Nerd Jumanji unplugs it, and then it continues to spark, and then they all get sucked into Jumanji, and then boom,
now it's Jumanji.
We're in Jumanji. This is probably no more than
20 minutes.
20 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
We're in Jumanji. We are here.
And then we have the bulk of the film to be Jumanji.
Yeah. So they get into Jumanji. They all get literally thrown onto the ground.
Yeah. Also, we should say the whole jungle is called Jumanji.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the game is called Jumanji. Like the place that they go to is called Jumanji.
Yeah. So they're into Jumanji. Everybody's just figuring out their bearings, figuring out who they are. So Nerd Jumanji becomes The Rock, who is the archaeologist and explorer.
Dr. Smolder Bravestone.
Yes. And he's just like The Rock, so he's big and buff, and he's like very capable. Nerd Girl Jumanji is Ruby Roundhouse, I believe her name is.
Yeah, she's turned into a hot ass kicking Karen Gillan.
Yes.
Wearing short shorts and a crop top.
Yes. Black Jumanji is turned to Kevin Hart, who is the zoologist and backpack guy.
Yeah, and his weaknesses are strength, speed, and cake.
Yes.
And then, of course, hot girl Jumanji
becomes Jack Black as Professor Shelley or whatever
Osborne.
his name. Yeah.
The cartographer.
Yeah. So to get to some of the premise of the film and why I think the film is so particularly great is that once we get into this part of the film, this is basically where the bulk of the film is. So this is like 75 to 80% of the film takes place as these characters in this world.
Yeah.
And the whole conceit of it at this point is that all of these characters, all these actors are playing the children from the introduction, the teenagers playing these characters.
Right.
So it's The
Rock's interpretation of like a 16-year-old nervous nerd boy suddenly thrust into a
like the
Rock's
Rock's
body.
And similarly for all the other ones. And I think the definite most impressive one was Jack Black as Hot Girl Jumanji.
Absolutely 100%.
Because Jack Black fucking plays the shit out of that role. And oh my god. And for the most part, the whole movie is really like all of their acting is really believable. It's like, wow, these are like really like 16-year-old kids like in these like adult like video game hero bodies.
Right.
But
it's the character interactions between all of them are so much fun. They all really clearly had a lot of fun with the performances.
Yeah, definitely.
They have a lot of charisma with one another.
Yeah.
We already know that The Rock and the Heart have a pretty good working relationship.
Yeah. Did you say The Heart?
Did I just say?
Yeah, he said the Rock
and the Heart.
But yeah, The Rock.
Yeah, we should call. That's what the combo should be called. The Rock and the Heart.
The Rock. But Kevin Hart and The Rock have really good chemistry together. Jack Black is a very fantastic comedic actor.
Yeah, and really good in a role like this, where it's like this is on the face of it, it's kind of hammy. Like
and Jack Black, like if you see Jack Black roles, like he really loves to like ham shit up like that.
Yeah, and you know what? This is the perfect movie for him.
Yeah, and Karen Gillan, I think this is
Gillan. I'm
Karen Gillan.
Confident it's Gillan.
Karen Gillan, I think this really kind of cements her as like a Hollywood actress.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that like it's like, you know, she's gonna be a big name actress because she's so particularly impressive.
But it shows that she has the range.
Yeah,
she can keep up with people like Jack Black. And The Rock.
Yeah, she has the ability to be a blockbuster movie star. So she's already busted her chops in the Avengers movies.
She started on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So like she already had the chops in terms of like being like an established actor with established characters.
Yeah.
And then she was
She's been in the Guardians of the Galaxies and the Avengers movie. I forget, but she's very compelling. Nebula. She's very compelling as an action villain, and then she turns to like a good person for a bit. And this one, she shows her range in being kind of this like nervous girl who has a little bit of a comedy chops to it, like in the awkwardness.
Yeah.
Like she's awkward
because she's also a badass. Like her character is an action hero.
Yeah.
She's a killer of men. All her strengths are like martial arts, dance fighting, like weapons.
Yeah, there's multiple things, and her weakness is venom.
Yeah.
which unfortunately never really kind of pulls out. Oh no, it does. Yeah, it does. Okay.
That's another thing I liked. They set up. The plot of the movie is really kind of here nor there. It's Jumanji as a video game. It's basically just like a point A to point B quest to return this green gem to the highest point in Jumanji. Yeah. And it's very video gamey. Like there's kind of like levels set up for them.
There's a tutorial guy, and so like when the tutorial guy comes to pick them up from the jungle, like when he comes in his like little van, the doors open up like a amusement
like a Jurassic
ride.
Park thing.
Yeah. So like you could hear like the kind of the hydraulic things like shh. Doors open, you enter in, the doors close.
Yeah.
Here is the exposition about Jumanji. Yeah. You are a part of Jumanji. The heroes, you gotta save Jumanji. Jumanji. Here you go.
An NPC, like very
Here's
NPC
a map.
behavior.
Go.
Yeah. So basically the whole, like, we don't need to describe the plot too much. Because like the real heart and like soul of this movie is the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
And definitely with the actors playing them. Because I wouldn't even say the characters matter too much. It's like these 4 actors having this much fun portraying this unique kind of character.
Yeah.
Where it's like a kid in a different body.
Yeah.
And so we see them like just kind of figuring out the game stuff together. Yeah. We see that they have a life system. They have like a little tattoo with like 3 stripes on their arms, and it like immediately, Jack Black, the hot Jumanji, is like violently mauled by a hippopotamus.
Violent. And I really enjoyed that it was a hippopotamus, because hippopotamuses are the most violent animals to humans on the planet.
Yeah.
I think like
they kill more things than lightning and sharks combined.
Yeah, like don't fuck around near hippopotamuses. You will die.
Yeah,
they will kill you. They will try to kill you.
Yeah, they're very large.
Yeah,
but so she gets mauled by a hippopotamus, and as an aware viewer, you understand like, okay, they obviously have a life system, because she dies and then like she drops back out of the sky, or Jack Black does. And then from there, all the characters have like at least I think 1 stupid death.
Yeah,
like they're all given like 1 comedy death, and then 1 like raise the stakes death, because they all have 3 lives. So at the end of the movie, they all finish with 1 life. Mm-hmm. So like the comedy death is Jack Black gets mauled by hippo like as soon as the game starts. The next comedy death is they push Kevin Hart and The Rock, the black Jumanji and the male nerd Jumanji get into an argument with each other because friendship.
Well, no, I think it's more importantly because the whole conceit between their relationship is that black nerd Jumanji, he's like the football player.
It's not black nerd, it's white nerd.
Black Jumanji and white nerd Jumanji. Black Jumanji, he's the football player, so he's like he's used to be big, buff, and tough. Everybody respecting him because of that, and he's good looking and whatnot. But now he's Kevin Hart. And he's like he's literally his skill is backpack valet. He's weak and small and can't do anything. And then white nerd boy Jumanji is now The Rock.
Yeah,
and he's like,
and he's literally no weaknesses.
Yeah, the most capable person ever.
Yeah.
And then because of that, he's nerd Jumanji just starts feeling himself. He's like, I'm stronger than you are now. And then they kind of get into a little bit of an argument.
And then Black Jumanji pushes Nerd Jumanji off a cliff.
Yeah, when he's like not looking, and then just like, all right, there we go, blah blah blah, and then they kind of just like it just smolders it for a while.
Yeah, and then they get into like a bit of a fight, and there's like tension.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Hart's comedy death is then they wind up in this bizarre area where they get to like trade and get food and stuff.
Yeah.
And earlier on, where they were going over strengths and weaknesses, it said that The Rock was like very strong and fast and capable with weapons and boomerangs. No weaknesses. Like we said, the Ruby Rose has a weakness to venom, good at other shit. Jack Black, the cartographer, is like good with maps and languages and shit, bad at endurance.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Hart the only strengths are backpack bitch and zoology, and then weaknesses: speed, strength, and cake.
Yeah.
And so then he eats pound cake in this bizarre.
Yeah, because
they play it for like a couple of minutes where they're like, oh.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the whole thing is like so this in the bazaar, like it's a very like classic looking Arabic type bazaar, like market area. And then there's the only intelligible thing, a part of the whole bazaar, and the background noise is this one guy yelling rations, rations, and it's just like, man, that's so video game. Like, it's just like the only guy you can hear yelling rations. It's just like, all right, go get their rations. They get the rations. It's like, oh, they taste it. Oh man, it's good. Kevin Hart has it. It's pound cake, and he's just like, oh, maybe I'm not allergic to pound cake.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
He's like, am I breaking out in hives? No. Like, am I bleeding? No. Am I sweating? No. Am I still black? Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Like, nothing matters. Maybe they said that cake was my weakness because I would see cake, I just can't stop myself. I just keep eating cake.
And then he just blows.
And then he explodes. It like violently, like an explosion, like there's fire. It's great.
And then like immediately after, everybody around them is just like, oh my god, oh no, and there's like just like small bit of destruction.
Yeah.
And then 5 seconds later, everybody goes back to their NPC routines.
Yeah.
Like there's literally 2 people standing next to them that were like, oh no, and then they turn back to each other and go back to doing business.
Yeah. And then he drops back out of the sky in the respawn. Yeah. And then the guy's like, get your rations, your rations. He's like, you better shut the fuck up right now.
Yeah, but as we're talking about the kind of settings and the other NPC characters in here, I would like to mention that it tries to be like kind of this very classical English version of the African jungle.
Yes,
except one of the major villain in this Jumanji iteration has a fucking biker gang.
Yeah, it was so funny because as soon as we saw, like, so they get dropped into the game. It's a jungle. There's a hippo death. Okay, yeah, we understand this. We get it. This is Jumanji. You're in a jungle. Literally the next level from that intro with the hippo.
Open field.
It's an open field, and then like the Jack Black character says like, "Oh, it looks like the map is telling us that we are where we're supposed to be now," and that scene is interrupted by a rocket-propelled grenade flying through the middle of the shot. And we were immediately both like, what the fuck is going on?
And I think particularly that, like, I think it's good comedic timing because, like, it flies through the middle of them. Yeah. But then it takes a couple of more seconds to actually hit anything. Yeah. And then once it hits something, it just explodes. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, shit.
What the fuck kind of Jumanji is this?
And then a biker gang comes from across the hill. Yeah, and then it's just
straight up motorcycles.
Yeah, and then there's like motorcycles with guns, and a lot of them have these rocket launchers. And there's like the side carriage, like motorcycle where there's just like a guy with like a rocket launcher on it, and they just got to run away. And it's very humorous, honestly.
It's so good.
And then it leads into a pretty compelling action sequence. Yeah, and they eventually get themselves out of it, and then it's just like, all right,
the first serious death happens, and it's the Ruby Rose character, the girl nerd. They have to like jump off this cliff to escape this biker gang, and she finds out that she was shot before they jumped off the cliff. So this is where they actually reveal that there is a life system. Because at this point we were both like, okay, we already saw the hippo kill Jack Black and they didn't address anything about lives. Now we see her die and drop out of the sky. So we're like, okay, they have to draw attention to it now. They have to explain it. And they do. Like, so like this movie like was keeping pace with what we wanted to do, like beat for beat almost.
Yeah, and like quite literally there were many times where I like something happened and I had a question of like, wait, wouldn't that mean this, and this? And then like literally a minute and a half later there's just like, all right, so that must mean this, and this. And it's like, all right, great. You explained exactly what I needed to explain.
Yeah, the movie's internal logic was consistent. It was clever. They were funny. And then I think that they waited the appropriate amount of time before they introduced the fifth character. They Nick
really
Jonas character.
did. I really feel like Nick Jonas was this fifth character that had been in there,
the one that we saw get trapped in there in 1996.
Yeah,
the one that where it originally changed from the board game to the video game.
And I like honestly, when they got to like finding Nick Jonas, I was just like, wow, I feel like this is exactly kind of what the story needed. Like we have had enough time with these four characters, understand their dynamics and their powers. Yeah, and now we're going to introduce this fifth element to it, and then it kind of adds exactly what is needed to keep the story going.
Yeah, and he brings his own tensions with it because he's been there for a long time. He doesn't know he's been there for 20 years. He thinks it's been a few months. He eventually finds that out. But he knows the layout of the place. Where he's been residing is actually revealed to be Alan Parrish's hideout from when he was trapped in Jumanji. That was a nice little salute to the old movie.
That was a little thing.
Yeah, and so he's down to one life. So his tension is all based on the fact that he cannot, like, there's no more fuck-ups for him. And he has not been able to push past to the next level. So he's been trapped in the same spot for about 20 years. So the fact that the rest of these players are here means that he can finally now move on, but he's also very scared to like take the reins. And I think the movie does a pretty good analysis of that. Like, it's on the nose, obviously, but like once The Rock, the boy nerd's character, runs down to his last life after being viciously mauled by jaguars.
Yeah.
He has a freak out moment where like him and Black Jumanji like finally connect and like kind of reignite their friendship, where he's like, I can't do this, I only have one life left, like what happens if I fuck up, where I'm gonna die, we're not gonna make it out. And then Black Jumanji's like, dude, you only ever have one life, like that's the rule, you've got one, it's just what you do with the life that you're given. And it's actually kind of poignant after this movie's been like a lot of high octane action and humor. It does still have a little bit of that emotional core, which is important.
Yeah.
It also has like a love plot between the nerd Jumanjis, but we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so then I would say the last act of the movie is really well done. Mm-hmm. It brings all 5 of them to this giant jaguar mountain, which is like Jumanji Mountain. The whole MacGuffin of the whole quest is to get the MacGuffin into the jaguar.
Yeah, and then say Jumanji, and then we go.
Yeah, and then say Jumanji. And so yeah, it was really good. And then the last death of the movie, the last person with a life left is Karen Gillan's character, girl nerd, and she has to like get the jewel from where it has landed on like an upper level, and it's in the middle of a pit of vipers, because like everyone's weakness has been played off already. So we were waiting the whole time for her weakness to Venom to be a plot relevant thing. And then like she's being surrounded by snakes. The bad guy also has like dominion over animals, is like part of his thing. So like all the snakes start turning on her, and I'm like, how? Because so she has to go up another like 60 feet or 100 feet up this mountain to get the jewel to the rock. And we're sitting there. I'm like, you know what I bet she's gonna do? She's gonna self-sacrifice. So she's gonna respawn and drop from the sky, and the rock's gonna catch her. And what exactly happens? That they pay off the venom as
he doesn't catch her. He doesn't catch her. Instead, what happens? No, she falls, and she hands her.
He like swing. Oh yeah.
She hands him the jewel, so she continues falling, but he catches the jewel like mid-action swing, super duper action swing, and then she just continues falling. She's like, all right,
because we don't need to. He doesn't need to catch her, because every time they fall in, they don't take fall damage.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that they kind of kept the continuity. Just like, you know, if you pick up an item, then you die. The item is still on your person.
Because they did that before. They did that earlier.
Yeah.
With the map, I think, right?
I don't remember. I think it was either with a map or with the jewel again previously with Kevin Hart.
It might have been that. It was something like that.
No, it was with Kevin Hart, because they threw Kevin Hart because he had the extra life. They were just like, here you go get a thing with all the rhinoceroses circling it.
They used him as bait to get the rhinoceroses away so that the Rock could pick up the jewel. Okay. But they did it something at some point earlier with some other item where the character in possession of the item lost their life. But when
it was the Rock tried to go off by himself. He got mauled by the jaguars, and then after getting mauled by the jaguars and respawning, he still had the jewel on him.
Right, that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a good quick setup for that to pay it off then at the end.
Consistent internal logic, which is something that is always appreciated.
Yeah. And then at the very end of the movie, he puts the jewel into the jaguar thing. And then there's like the silent moment where they're like, wait, why didn't that work? Why isn't that? And then us as the informed viewers who are dedicated to Jumanji at this point, we're like, say Jumanji!
You gotta do the Jumanji thing!
And then Jack Black is like, speak its name. Say Jumanji! And then like every character's like, say Jumanji, 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 Jumanji. And then The Rock's like, Jumanji! And we literally sitting on the couch at fucking midnight, we're like, Jumanji!
And it was great. And they said Jumanji, and then they had I think something I really appreciated. They had their
fucking up the focus.
No, it's on manual focus now.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the game finally ends and everything kind of goes back to normal, the guide comes back and just like, hey guys, you saved Jumanji. Yeah. It was very nice having you guys.
Jumanjis for saving our Jumanji.
Yes, thank you for saving Jumanji. You did Jumanji an excellent job.
As a reward, you made Jumanji this Jumanji.
Yeah, and then they shake their hands and then they all leave.
And they do like the Avengers dissolve.
Yeah, basically. So then they go back into the real world, and they're in the real world. And then it's like super duper like.
And then it's just like emotional emotional resolution for all of them.
But it's like so sappy and just like very cookie cutter.
It has to be. You know?
But I will say it earned it because like you really feel attached to these characters after watching this movie. Like,
and you feel like they've actually all learned something valuable for themselves. Like, Nerd Girl has found more confidence in herself. So has Nerd Boy. Black Jumanji is
he's not being such a shitty friend
not
anymore.
A dick anymore, right? Yeah, he's more, he values the people around him more. Hot girl Jumanji has more self-respect and doesn't desire like the vanity of Instagram likes quite so much as more.
And now she wants to go out and explore nature,
camping. Yeah.
And then they're all friends now. So and then the two nerd Jumanjis like they see each other on the bus like right after getting off the bus, and then they kiss, and then it's just like poof. Yeah, that's the end of the movie.
And then the end of the movie is them they physically destroy the Jumanji game.
Yeah.
But of course, we learned in January of this year that they are planning a Jumanji 3, which I don't think we should call Jumanji 3. It should be.
Enter the Jumanji.
Enter the Jungle 2, or Jumanji Enter the Jumanji 2, or if we're thinking about it, like it really is Jumanji 4 because Zathura was kind of Jumanji 2, even though it was Zathura 1.
But either way, but here's the thing. So, Jumanji 2, Enter the Jumanji 2.
Which is really Jumanji 3, but which is really Jumanji 4.
Yeah. It in all possible ways, it deserves that sequel.
Yeah.
So I
think that we started this thinking about like we found out there was a sequel coming out to this reboot, and we're like, how the fuck does it manage to get that? Jumanji never got a Jumanji 2, strictly speaking.
Yeah.
This
and
is
it took them 20 years almost to get, a little more than 20 years to get Jumanji 2.
Yeah. Almost 25 years.
Yeah, and then we watched Jumanji 2, and we did a little research on it, and not only was Jumanji 2 fantastic, as we were just kind of ranting and raving about right now.
Jumanji Into the Jumanji.
But Jumanji 2 Into the Jumanji made a shit ton of money.
Oh, fucking insane. It had a budget of...
I think it was like
60 million or 100 million?
It was like 100 and something million.
And it made $900 million.
Yeah.
It competed with Star Wars, The Last Jedi. And it came in right behind it on that weekend.
Yeah. And that's incredible to do well against Star Wars.
Yeah. And of the 6 weeks it was in theaters, it held the top of the box for 4 of those weeks.
Which is fantastic.
Almost unheard of, too. Yeah. Especially for a rebooted franchise. But that's I think The Rock and Kevin Hart's combined star power. Yeah. And Jack Black too, probably.
Yeah, and I'm honestly excited. Like if they can manage to find the same kind of, here we go. Welcome to the jungle. So here we go. So y'all can see if they can manage to get the same kind of chemistry that they did in the first Jumanji 2 Enter the Jumanji, then it will definitely be good. And I'm actually
the budget
very
was between
excited.
90 and 150 million, and it made 962.
That is a runaway success.
Absolutely
ridiculous
bonkers.
Success. And I bet Sony Pictures was very happy after having all those Sony product placement advertisements in there.
And we will say, so we're I don't know, I would say pretty apt film watchers, or we pay attention. So we saw all the Sony product placement as soon as the movie started. Yeah. But in fairness to Sony, they kind of stopped it stopped the worst of it after the first half an hour.
Yeah, there
is a scene later on where there's a boombox, and it's a Sony boombox, but it's like, okay,
that's like it. Like once you're in Jumanji, there was only that one product placement. Yeah. But I will say, in Nerd Jumanji's room, when we first get introduced to it, there are 2 Last Guardian posters.
Yeah.
And one...
And a Last of Us poster and a Nathan Drake's Uncharted poster. Which all PlayStation 4 exclusive games.
Yeah. And I think the Uncharted 4 poster, probably
it's fucking nail on the head. It's like him with a jewel on top of a mountain.
Yeah, and very much Uncharted is like exactly what the Jumanji game would be.
Exactly, 100%.
And it was great. It was fantastic. Besides, all the Sony, there's flagrant product placement.
Yeah,
ridiculous. But what can you ask for?
But now, we're getting to the end of it.
Yeah, we're definitely a little past hour.
Yeah. So just just loose conjecture about what the next movie is going to be about. It looks like rumors are circulating that it might be a bit of an origin story to explain Jumanji a little bit. Which I'm also down for. Like whatever it's going to be, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I like this movie. I will say, I liked the Robin Williams Jumanji. I think it was a good movie. It means something to me personally because it meant something to me as a kid. It doesn't hold up quite as well. It is definitely not quite as entertaining as I remembered it being. It definitely has its problems. I'd give original Jumanji like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
like a weak 6 out of 10 too. Jumanji 2, Enter the Jumanji. Easily give it an 8 out of 10. Easily. Maybe an 8.5.
Yeah. It was very solid. It was enjoyable. We had a fun time.
Very fun. Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was funny. The action was good. The cinematography was good. And the character charisma, just off the chain.
Excellent. Especially Jack Black. I'd never want to underspeak about Jack Black in his role. He plays a 16-year-old girl. Every time he talked, I believed that was a caricature of a 16-year-old girl.
And I think that and it wasn't insulting. Like he wasn't making fun of 16-year-old girls.
Yeah. I believe some of the like the one joke that I think really cemented it for me was the penis jokes. Yeah. When they finally had to go pee for the first time, and hot girl Jumanji as Jack Black has to go pee, and they had to like try to explain to him like, this is how you pee as a boy, and then she's just like, oh my god, this is so cool, you guys even have a handle. Yeah. And then she calls out to like nerd girl Jumanji, says like, hey, come look at my penis.
Nerd girl Jumanji's like, no thanks. And it's just so funny. It's like that like innocence of like a 16-year-old girl simply just being fascinated with like having a penis. It's so funny. And she was like, this is so much easier. It was great. Very well done. Very well done. I'm excited to see what the sequel's going to bring.
Yeah, especially since if this is going to be the kind of formula they're going to have for it, which is like Christmas. It's these 4 characters.
Oh yeah,
and like it's whoever else from the outside plugged into these 4 characters, which I think is great.
They're adding new acting talent to this next one. Yeah. Danny DeVito, Danny Glover, and Awkwafina are confirmed, I believe, to have joined the cast.
Yeah, so that's
expected cool. December 13th, 2019.
I'm really excited to see Danny DeVito in Jumanji.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know what he's going to do, but I bet it's going to be great.
So when we'll do a Christmas spectacular next year, and this will be one of the movies that we talk about, because this is definitely going to be, we can officially consider this a Christmas franchise. I think
it's coming out December 19th this year.
So my this is now my second favorite Christmas franchise, just after Die Hard. So, I think that's all we have to say about Jumanjis. Actually, we could say a lot more, probably. And maybe in the future we will touch back on Jumanjis. We'll watch this with Zathura at one point. We'll do a Dax Shepard day. Because
you know what? I'm all right with that. I'll shit on Dax Shepard's career. Because
he's such a great person.
He makes bad art.
Have you listened to his podcast?
No.
We should do that too. All right. So maybe next week we'll talk about Dax Shepard. Maybe we'll talk about something else. We'll figure it out. But either way, today I've been Jumanji.
And I've been Jumanji.
And this has been the Jumanji Circle Podcast.
Thank you all for listening, and enjoy your time in Jumanji.
Yeah, Jumanji out.